Thank you. We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the South East Nation, the Malakadee people of the Yuin River and the Liliquani people of the far south. We recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture, and we pay our respects to their elders past and present. Okay, tonight we have Councillor Armstrong, Councillor Jessup, Councillor Robertson, Councillor Gibson, Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Rozak. Would you like to introduce your staff, please?
I would. Tonight we have Paddy Johnson, Director of People and Corporate Services, Lyle Ground, Director of Community and Place, Frank Chen, Director of Infrastructure and Assets, Matthew Grimsey, General Counsel, Connor Watson, Information and Technology Project Officer, Sue Brezignac, Acting Executives, Assistant Executive, yeah, and Sandy Rustell, also acting. Thank you everybody for being here.
Yeah. Couldn't do it without you.
Could not, absolutely could not.
Yeah. 2.1, we do have two apologies tonight, and that's Deputy Mayor Toby Thorpe and Councillor Andrew Burgess. There's no leave of absence and there's no absence, well, yeah, tonight. Councillors, does anyone wish to declare an interest in any of tonight's agenda items?
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. 4.012/25. Do I have a councillor to move a motion that the minutes in the ordinary meeting 26 November 2025 as circulated be confirmed? Councillor Gibson, seconded. Councillor Morozak. Do any councillors wish to report any changes? That's the case. I put the motion forward. If in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors present. The motion is carried. No legislative items tonight. No urgent matters. I only have one sort of really important mayor's announcements, and that's to say that as council, we are really sad to see Paddy Johnson leaving us. Paddy, we just need to say thank you very much for all you've done, along with the CEO and the other directors, to put the council into the position we're in today. Couldn't have been done without you, so thank you very much for that. We have no, we've got some, there was one question given on notice. There was no questions taken on notice from November's meeting. There was one question given on notice for tonight's meeting from Ms. Jo Goodman. The question and response are included in the agenda and will be are on the agenda and included in the minutes. Questions. There was no questions without notice submitted for tonight's meeting. Public question time, we have no one in the gallery. They've all left after the AGM. So 8.2, no deputations. Petitions. Are there any petitions? No. We have one planning report for council to consider tonight, and I advise that the council commence acting as a planning authority at
7:06.
In accordance with the provisions of Part 2, Regulation 29 of the Local Government Meeting Procedures Regulations 2025, the Council will now act as a planning authority pursuant to the Land Use and Planning Approvals Act 1993. In accordance with Regulation 29, the Council will act as a planning authority in respect to these matters appearing under Item 10 of this agenda, inclusive of any supplementary items. It is important to be aware that your role as a councillor and as a member of a planning authority are different. The key differences relate to the decision making. As a member of council, your decisions may be swayed by community feedback, but as a member of the planning authority, your decisions must be based on the provisions of the planning scheme. The above snippet is from the Good Governance Guide. Make it quite clear the importance of wearing, as we all call it, our planning hats. So now, report number 10.006/25, planning application VA 20/2025, visitor accommodation, 3 times cabins at 364 Mountain River Road, Mountain River, CT 182622/1. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion, please? Councillor O'Neill and Councillor Rozak. Councillor O'Neill, would you like to speak to this?
Oh, yeah, I think it's it's actually great to see some newer visitor accommodation being built, and not at the expense of already existing housing. So I think that's where we need to go. Thank you.
Thank you. Do I have any other councillors to speak to this motion? Yes, Councillor Gibson.
Just in terms of planning, I think the only question I had was around fettering of agricultural use, but I noted that the cabins have been moved further away from the boundaries, and I do feel comfortable that this has addressed that issue. There was one thing that I wanted to amend, if possible, which was this issue of security lighting. I did a bit of research on security lighting, and it seems that, if anything, lighting aids burglars, doesn't stop them. And this is a rural setting, and I don't know if there's anything in the planning scheme. I haven't seen anything that says that we should have a dispensation for security lighting. But I have lived with it in the country and disconnected it because possums and paddy melons continue to trip it. And so if we're trying to decrease the lighting we want dark skies. It's something that's really precious in Tasmania in general. And also, if we're trying to minimise the disturbance on neighbours, we don't want lights coming on and off. So unless there's a very good reason for it, I would leave out the, and I'm open to suggestion, the term except for security lighting, and just leave that little bit out.
Okay, will we ask the question back to the Director? Yep.
Going back to the scheme now.
Yep. All right, do I have any other, or come back to that? Is there any others, Paul, that you want to talk about with that? Okay, we'll come back to that question. Is there any other questions from, yes, Councillor Robertson?
I was going to note, I'm reasonably comfortable with the application. I was going to note that just because this is a new application after consultation and discussion after a first application doesn't necessarily mean it's addressed all the issues. But I'm reasonably happy with most of it. A comment on the security lighting, I think we just need to be careful that if there are safety constraints, and I am comfortable with security lighting in terms of something that flicks on when a car comes into a car park so people can get out safely in the dark. And I suspect maybe the term's not well defined, but I'm comfortable with the principle that there is a minimal level of lighting enabled for safety reasons during darkness. What I also was going to comment, I guess, and ask, the conditions seem much briefer, and I'm comfortable with that and appreciative of that, but they're maybe not necessarily quite as specific. And so, for example, restrictions on noise or access or so on aren't necessarily recognising the difference between winter when there's short daylight hours or summer when there's longer daylight hours, and disturbance or utilisation might change. That's really more just a comment than a question, I think. One question I had was, is there a maximum term or occupancy length for seasonal workers who might stay in these units? Is that defined anywhere, or just is there a point at which occupation of a unit by a farm worker might effectively transition into a residential rental property?
There's no specific, the scheme doesn't talk about a threshold, like a quantifiable threshold, but certainly we have to, as qualified planners, make a determination what is the most appropriate or what is the closest use category in the scheme based on what we see in terms of either an application or if we're in the compliance space, what we see on the property or at the site. And certainly we would be looking at the length of stay and as one of the key informants, whether it's residential use or if it's visitor accommodation. There are also a variety of other uses related to farm workers, seasonal workers, things like that. So yeah, it would factor in, but there's no specific number of days or anything like that.
Okay, so there's capacity to be conscious of that.
Correct.
Great.
Through you, Mayor, I can answer the other question. So the condition itself is not saying there must be security lighting. It's just saying if there is security lighting, we don't want that security lighting shining into other people's properties or things. Yeah. So what we're saying, so there's nothing in the rural zone when the scheme, or there's nothing in the rural zone, there's in other zones that talks to security lighting. But what we're saying is if the developer would like to put in security lighting, make sure it's facing downward, et cetera, et cetera.
Could we change the word, because I actually agree with Councillor Robertson, could we change it to safety lighting rather than security lighting? I don't know, security lighting implies to me floodlights and the like.
Safety lighting sounds.
I agree with the visitors coming to a place not knowing the area, having enough light to be able to see where to the front door would be handy.
You normally do that at a low level too. It doesn't have to be up. Yeah. So is that a,
Mover and second are prepared to accept.
yeah,
So I've got to,
you've just got to say.
I'm happy for it to be watered down a little bit, but you do need to, you can't say you can't have lighting, otherwise
Yeah.
there's safety and issues there. So I'm happy to change it to
Safety.
safety rather than security. That's not an issue for me.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah.
Yep, thank you.
So we can do that without having to, yep, okay. All right, yes, councillor Jessup.
In previous applications that or conditions that we've put on, we've made specific reference to dark sky standards. We haven't done that in this one, but I think one last meeting we specifically included, and maybe just a dot point on point 4 that says, all lighting must comply with AS whatever, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember what the exact standard is, but it's basically just, it sort of says what's in that second dot point, but it talks about lighting being downward facing and being appropriate for the use.
I can provide
And then at least as a standard, and everybody knows what it is, and
Yep.
and that's all lighting in the building then, so you're not
Yeah, effectively then it's all external lighting, which is for the main is external lighting associated with
correct.
is in compliance with AS. I forget which one it is, but that's what you. Yep.
I think so.
Yeah, it's the one you're referring to was the was the church application
Yeah,
that we applied. Yep.
And that's it's pretty open.
The-
It's not such a restrictive standard, you can't use any lighting, but it just basically says things like the downward facing and the
Yeah,
appropriate
it's
lighting.
effectively about not wasting lighting, using timers, downward facing, etc. And the difference, I suppose, in there was that actually had lighting really proposed for the church, and so we were directly addressing that. Yeah, that's fine, but it's got to be dark sky compliant. Whereas this one is just saying that if you do choose to have lighting, we want it to be so. But I don't see a problem with just adopting that standard unless the director says otherwise.
To your through your mayor, to your point, CEO, it's exactly that. So there was a requirement for the church to provide external lighting, and then we attached the dark skies principle. So I'm just rewording this condition to match that this isn't a requirement, but that any lighting that they choose to implement externally. So if you can give me a minute to do that.
Because I think, Mayor, just as a general standard, I think, as who a previous speaker was, I can't remember, sorry, but saying that the need to preserve the dark sky, the tourism effect of that, there's a place as I drive home, I drive past, I look up on the hill somewhere, it looks like there's a couple of Mack trucks about to drive down the hill, and it really does look out of place, I think is a word. Yeah.
Through you, Mayor, I've
Yes.
emailed wording for the condition to councillors and executive. So you can have a look at that, and that could be moved.
Do you want to?
Yes, so
Yep.
Mayor, just for the purpose of reading that into the recording and for the public, the suggestion is a third dot point in condition 4 to state all external lighting must conform to AS/NZS 4282 of 2023, control of the obtrusive effects of outdoor lighting.
Happy with that.
Are you happy with that? Mover and the seconder? Yep. Okay.
Just on that note, I think Councillor Jessup's suggestion is just for consistency, a good one. If we apply it in one application, regardless of the fact if it has been triggered through a planning scheme provision or if it's just something that the applicant might choose to do, just for consistency from our end, I think it makes perfect sense. So
And I'm pretty sure, being where they are, they'll probably want to make it so that, the people can get that darker sky anyway. So, yeah, you're right. But if we are consistent and have it in there. So, yeah. Do I have any other? Have you got any closing, councillor?
I know, I think good points been made, I think. Good resolution.
Well then, I'll put that forward that we accept with the changes that were accepted. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors, and the motion is carried. I advise that council is no longer acting as a planning authority as at
7:19.
Thank you. 11.012/25, do I have a councillor to move a motion that the general reports and minutes for the period 1 to 30 November 2025 be received and noted? Councillor Armstrong and Councillor Gibson. Councillor Armstrong?
Not at the minute, thank you, Mayor.
Are there any other councillors that have anything? Yes, councillor?
Every time I go through the general reports, the business enterprise units seems to stand out. I'm just so pleased that all of those business type things have been put together and are being sort of looked after in this way. It's quite a change from the way things were, and I mean, the $50,000 grant towards accommodation and registrar support, these sorts of things coming through all the time in the bulk billing and medical centres. I mean, that was a federal thing, but just having somebody, dedicated to managing these things makes a big difference, I think.
I should imagine it makes a big difference to directors' lives as well.
It was a good part of the restructure, I believe.
Yes, that's right. Yeah. Yes?
Mayor, just, and probably refer you to somebody else. So just to confirm with the fact that we're now 100% bulk billing, so two things in our practices, we get an additional bonus from the federal government, which helps defray our costs. But does that mean that anybody who walks into either of those two practices with or without a health card, as long as they've got a Medicare card, they will be bulk billed for their standard consults or all consults?
Standard consults, and the only people that are excluded effectively are if you don't have a Medicare card, correct.
All those people.
Yep.
Yes.
Yep.
Exactly.
So we were, and the background to this is we were already at 90% bulk billing in our practices. So for us, this meant that we get that practice incentive, and by achieving 100%. So yeah.
And just to be clear for those people who are keen on competitive neutrality, every practice in Australia has a right to go down that path and receive the same benefits that the community who uses our things are. So we're not, this isn't a special deal that local government gets to compete with private enterprise or anything like that. This is
No.
so any GP practice in Australia can actually do the right, can bulk bill.
Absolutely.
And you might remember we said that initially, when it was lower, that it was hard for us to get the doctors to come when we were a bulk billing. But now that that's changed, that has made it easier to get the doctor.
And I note that we're looking at getting a couple more registrars, so hopefully any increase in demand will be offset by people, doctors.
Well, we've already got high demand, and we just continue to recruit for as many doctors as we can get. We've actually got, recruitment has been really encouraging. We've got 3 really good registrars that are now signed up since the publishing of this. So they'll be commencing early in the new year. But we've also got a fellow that's been working with us in a local capacity that is a local to Geeveston. So there's quite a lot of good stuff going on down there, and a team that are really dedicated to serving the community. So there's a lot of positivity around the building the service and making it a very professional medical practice that's attractive to attract and retain doctors.
And as you'll read there, Dr. Neer at Dover, who's a fellow, is undergoing, has been invited to undergo some training so that he can supervise, which is the battle that we have sometimes, having that supervision.
I see somewhere that one of our registrars won a...
Yes, a couple of months ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was actually him. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
it.
David. Yep.
That was David, not Dr. Neer. That was another one.
So he won the Registrar of the Year or something in the Tasmania. Yeah, well done.
So, yeah. So, yes, Councillor Robinson?
I asked a very similar question this time last year. We're on the verge of the fire season, and I asked for an update from staff on their perceptions and preparation for risk, managing risk as we go further into the fire season. I know it's been a very peculiar year with lots of water around. So this time last year, I think we were talking about how are we going with abatement notices. I think this year you're probably going to tell me that how many times the mowers have been bogged, and with a staffer having to bring mud cakes into work as compensation for being towed out of the bogs. But because the flip side of that is things are growing phenomenally, and it feels a lot. It feels like we're not really in summer yet, although apparently this week it's happening and fire season is here now. I'm interested in an update, and I'm sure our community is.
Probably the biggest difference from last year is, yes, it has been difficult to get machines onto soft areas. So for fire abatements onto private property and also just mowing our own off-road areas, it has been unusually soft. And then a lot of the contractors who are the tractor contractors that can do slashing are focused first on cutting hay. So that has delayed the whole season. We do have the luxury of it being green, and once the hay's put away, then some of those contractors will be available for fire abatement. We are expecting and have already issued fire abatement notices to properties that they're up. We just have some properties that are frequent flyers, for want of a better word. And we do expect that this year, with that elongated growing season, that we may have to issue 2 abatement notices to those properties. The grass is so long now because of that growth, and if it only takes a couple of days for that to dry out, so it needs clipping now, notwithstanding that it's green, but it may well grow back and need cutting again. So we've already issued a first round of abatement notices, and we'll see how that goes. Our roadside mowing program continues as per, so we're focused all around Signet, etc. at the moment. So they, it's a cyclic piece. We use contractors to support our internal team, but we focus around Signet to get that all ready ahead of the Signet Folk Festival, and then the concentration back into our major population centre around Huonville, Ranelagh, immediately after Christmas. So we're on top of everything. In terms of the sort of emergency preparedness, the team are, we've got a pretty well established communication channels with emergency management here, and the team recently, was it last week, did evacuation centre volunteer training. I don't know why I'm looking at Lyle, who was away.
No, it's true.
But
It was 2 weeks ago.
Yeah,
Let's
2
do
weeks
it.
ago.
And
Yeah,
they did do it.
Yep. So lots of staff, doing some preparedness around if we have to stand up emergency evacuation centres, and what that all looks like. So yeah.
Thank you. one more question. At the tail of page 96 on our papers under environmental sustainability, there's mention of a proposed community environmental action group. This looks like maybe something that's come up from within the staff body, which I think is great if we've got an organisation where ideas are flowing readily. But I'm a little bit concerned that the idea that there's a draft pitch has been developed for a community environmental network or action group that how does that fit with some of our strategic intent to do some facilitation and support? I think the words you tend to use are advocacy, facilitation and collaborative efforts rather than doing the work ourselves in this sort of area. So if that's an area that community is interested in, that we might encourage that. I guess the question is also, how different is that from the support we provide to landcare groups, which can operate at a detailed level for specific sites or districts, but also can operate more strategically. I know of a landcare group that's interested in CAST, wherever that might be. So, yeah.
Sure. Can I pass that through to the director?
So what we're doing here is you'll recall there's the climate emergency motion was moved, which required us to have a community working group or climate working group, which was represented with community members. We've obviously been working to try and progress that, but when we were sort of developing the terms of reference for such a working group, and it sort of aligns with both the livability framework and how that unit, which is called the Environmental Sustainability Unit, is looking to operate, which is there's the interconnectedness between sustainability, NRM, or natural resource management, and climate. So what we're doing here is we're saying, rather than having a working group for climate, having a working group for NRM, and having a working group for sustainability, let's put it all together and have one working group. It's just more efficient to administer. We're meeting what councillors have moved and endorsed, which is we need a climate working group, but we're actually then putting in the other components that sort of feed into that. So what we're doing here is we're not trying to create a new body, a new landcare group. All we're trying to do is we're trying to deliver on what council has asked us to do, which is to have a reference group that we engage with as we develop strategies and operational plans. But we are saying, rather than just having one for climate, let's have one that cuts across those three key areas. So the plan, I appreciate that maybe it's not 100% clear. The plan is that we're busy finalising those terms of reference, and the idea is we would come back to council and say, this is what we're pitching, get your feedback potentially through a workshop or through a briefing note, and then we can engage on what that would look like and what a sort of a final draft would be that we would then bring to council for a formal decision at a council meeting. So that's the plan.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. Do I have any other? Yes, no, councillor Gibson.
Just on the bushfire thing, I was wondering, I may have missed it, does council provide any information about where residents can get equipment, suitable equipment, and what that might be? Or do we go to the TFS?
Equipment for
Yeah, that's right.
That would be.
I mean,
It's preparation.
it's TFS, and it's not a space we want. And our main message is to get a prepared action plan and leave early. So residents wanting to get equipment, etc., go to the TFS and find out more. Yeah. We've got our emergency management page on the website is well laid out with all the different stages of getting yourself prepared, and provides a heap of useful links to those other agencies for other support.
For those large landholders, call out for Red Hot Tips. They're that sort of farm management group of TFS, and they're very happy to come and talk to you about land management and planning as well for burns and stuff.
Can I just add at this point, it may be useful, councillors may have seen the media release that went out from council today with Huon Valley's now on GeoNeon, which has the property-based finer scale fire risk mapping, which is now consistent with most of the southern areas from Derwent Valley, Hobart, Kingborough and Huon. That is a really good resource for people to understand their own property fire risks and inform their own action planning. And it doesn't tell you anything surprising. We have some very high fire risk areas in the Huon Valley.
Yes, councillor Armstrong.
Thanks for that reminder, and I'll
Armstrong,
follow.
Robinson, sorry. Yeah.
The words are rather different.
Yeah. Same amount of letters.
I'll just follow on from that. So congratulations for getting that GeoNeon mapping online. And a comment that the next step, that gives you some context-based information, but the next step is to review your own preparedness or resilience or response to fire for your own fire response plan. And a comment that there's actually a tool online developed by, a national tool developed by the Resilient Building Council. So you can do an internet search on that and look it up. And it runs you through a survey on your situation, your building, and the immediate environment around your building. There's lots of questions to go through, but it will come back and give you a rating that helps you understand how defendable or resilient your building and situation might be. And also give you, through that, information on where your weaknesses might be. And it might be that you'd rate better or be more resilient if you tidied up your deck or if you did some window treatment or things like that. So I went through that for my own place and I found it very interesting and helped me focus on where I can make some quick wins with a few cheap actions. And then there are some things that I could do if I invested a little bit more time or money in that. But if I want to be more resilient, that really helped me understand my situation. And you can fill all this stuff out and support it with photos and pay a small fee, I think it's a couple of $100, and actually get accredited. And then apparently, if you're rating really well, you can use that to request a discount for your house and contents insurance policy. Okay. Which mine went up 18% this year. So that if that's the space you're in and you're performing really well and you want recognition for that, that's a useful bottom line benefit from that kind of action. So Resilient Building Council is the organisation that's got that tool. Thank you.
Through you, Mayor, I've not heard of that one. I'm not sure if any of us have, but we'll check it out and consider if we actually promote its use, provide the link, etc.
Through you, Mayor. It's actually in the emergency hub on our website. It's linked there.
Okay.
Yeah, so if you go into the bushfire section, it is there. But what we can do is put out more communication, drawing attention to the various, because that hub is really, it's under development, but the team are working hard on it, and I think it is a good resource for people to understand the different tools available to them in that space.
Definitely. And I think everyone's had a bit of a wake-up call with what the fires that have been in Tasmania. Yes.
Yeah, just a quick one on childcare. I know our childcare demand is still quite high. From memory, we've got 2 grants in play, both for about $5 million, one from the feds, one from the state. So two-part question, I suppose. Where are they sort of at? And do we have a sort of a sort of broad project timeline that, we talk about starting
time or
building?
something?
Yeah, starting to build in 27 or 26 or 35 or...
So where we are at the moment is in discussion around the grant deed and the elements that are needed by from DSIP to administer that grant. DSIP will be the administrator of the two $5 million, so it's one $10 million one centralised, which is good. So yeah, we're currently in discussion to get that grant deed finalised. Part of that is sharing a project plan. The project plan at this point of time has us commencing building in October of 2026. So there's a bunch of planning, et cetera, to do. And the main hold up not hold up, but where we're at in the process at the moment is through the consultation process through the CFLC and all the stuff that we've been doing, is modifications to those architectural plans to get within the budget that we've got, and also site it differently on the block to maintain space for the primary school to still have some playing fields.
There's an early learning centre going to be there as well, isn't there?
No, there's not. So these are some of the changes that have been made. So we're making adjustments to that, and then immediately following that, then is the full design spec, etc. So we're going full steam ahead with that at the moment. But the intent to be building in October.
There's some great election shots for the mayor once he reruns.
You know, I'll come back one day and help cut a ribbon, eh?
It's very, very exciting project.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, do I have any others? Councillor Armstrong, do you want any close on that? No? All right, I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. Motion is carried. Okay. General reports. The following are included for information purposes. The Office of Independent Regulator Annual Report. That's been noted. Workshops are in there to let them know what's happening there. Yep. Take them as read. Okay. 13.1. There was one question, councillor question taken on notice from the November council meeting. Councillor Mark Jessup regarding timeframes of planning assessments. A response will be included in the minutes. There was no councillor questions given on notice for tonight. Councillors, are there any questions without notice tonight? No. I'll move on. 13.4. There are no notices of motion for tonight's meeting. And we'll move on to 15.1, report number 15.052/25, Building Amendment Bill 2025, implementing the freeze of the National Construction Code. I refer councillors to the recommendation of this report. Do I have a councillor to move the motion, please? Councillor Rozak and Councillor Gibson. Do you wish to speak to this one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. I think this is a bit of a double-sided sword. And we actually really want our buildings to be more energy efficient to reduce costs for occupants. Therefore, the changes in the NCC, and as they are progressing to make our buildings more energy efficient, we should be welcoming this. Unfortunately, where we live, where we are in our economic playing field, it is not always that easy to get all those materials to. Just looking at, for example, the 7-star energy requirement, insulation materials are costly. They are not always available if you want particular ones. The regulations on condensation management, there are products now available that come from overseas. They're not even made here in Australia, which, if you don't get them, the builder will just be sitting there. So I fully understand those concerns, but yeah, that's why I said at the beginning, this is a double-sided sword. I think what we need to work on, I appreciate this as an interim measure. I hope that we will see like an NCC 2029 or 30, whatever the next edition will be, introduced and fully implemented in Tasmania. But I acknowledge the difficulties at the moment to actually make those buildings compliant. So as an interim measure, if it can be called that, I think it's a good idea to make the submission as the attachment to support the draft bill.
Thank you. Thanks, okay. Do I have anybody else to, yes, councillor Gibson?
I completely concur with Councillor Mrozek. I only have one other thing that I'd like to say, and that is that it's about the size of houses. So when the difference in energy use of a 100 square metre house as against a 600 square metre house is just a completely different ballpark. And the people building the 100 square metre houses are doing it on a really tight budget. And I think they're already sort of doing so much energy stuff. We should have a dispensation for some of these more expensive energy efficient requirements, for in that size bracket, so that people can still actually manage to build their house. So I would like to insert a comment in where we had the costs, to just refine that a little bit, so that smaller houses they're already doing, as I said, they're already doing a huge amount in terms of energy efficiency by just making a smaller house.
So whereabouts is that?
I think it's in the comments.
Through Mayor, the first page,
Yep.
concerns include cost escalation, so there would be a dot point
Add a dot point,
within that.
a suggestion or something to
Do you
consider.
have just some wording to clarify that?
Hume Valley Council would like it to be considered that houses under 100 square metres have a dispensation
Just in the context of the submission, I think it would probably be a statement that houses under 100 square metres are more energy efficient by nature.
Yeah, well, maybe just smaller houses, so we don't, being not too prescriptive on their size.
Smaller or compact?
Yeah, and
Maybe
the thing is,
requirements could be proportionately
yes, that's not a bad proportionally.
reduced for
Yeah.
recognising the efficiency of smaller.
And
properties.
recognising that at that end of the building, size, people are stretching their budgets already.
Yep, it was all speaking then, so I don't know whether.
Through Mayor, just about to finalise something that may be acceptable for councillors.
This is Small Houses Ring Council.
So maybe while Mr Grimsey's finalising his words, I just am very challenged by this. Local government gets blamed for the housing crisis and the cost of housing because we don't have enough land, we don't do this, we don't do that. Yet the building codes, when you look at them, have become incredibly more difficult to implement for people. I'd hate to be an architect or a designer because there's just so much more. But also I think the recognition that having a house that is maybe not totally energy efficient is probably a lot better for families than not having a house at all. And also, these days with changes in solar and all those sort of things, we're increasingly more energy efficient anyway. But the ridiculousness of these codes, I've got a 5-year-old solar system. I want to put a new inverter on to put a battery on there. Oh no, codes will change, mate. You can't do that. You've got to have this much clearance here and that much clearance there. So instead, buy a whole new solar system. Now that's maybe the company wanting to sell me a whole new solar system, but I did do some investigations and the codes just change so difficult. It's so difficult for people to upgrade houses as well. And we have a lot of old housing stock. So if people want to do a minor, even a relatively minor extension or amendment to their houses, they're having to do a whole heap of other stuff, which just makes it really difficult. And we need to recognise that we have a unique and older housing stock here in Tasmania.
It's impossible sometimes. Like we tried it, we had 4.5 and we needed 5. And we just could not get to 5. And there's not a lot of,
We're a jumper.
just wear a jumper. But I understand where it comes from, but it is sometimes really difficult to get. So is there a discretionary content?
Yeah.
But not even just with little houses, just with
For old stock as
oh
well.
yeah,
So,
you know.
Yeah.
Wait a minute, let's have a look. and see what we've got here.
So now we've gone off on a whole different tangent.
I have 10 new dot points,
Yeah,
Mayor.
yeah.
So,
I was thinking that.
the dot point, just on Councillor Gibson's point, along the lines of smaller and compact houses are recognised as being more energy efficient, and additional energy costs may make smaller houses cost prohibitive in a housing crisis.
Very good. Yes.
Can I, just one thing, I'm not sure that they are more energy efficient. If your metric is energy use per metre squared, well,
Well, it's not per metre per house, though,
what, do you-
or per occupant.
well, I mean, I think it's really that they just consume less energy.
Energy saving? Is it energy saving?
Yeah, their net energy use is
Their net energy use
relatively
is less, but that's, the issue is just, they're not more energy efficient. They're just smaller. So therefore they use less, but on a net effect, if they're built to a poorer standard, they are going to be less efficient by their very nature. So it's just, I just think being accurate in if we're going to put a submission in on a federal
Use
thing.
less energy.
Yeah, I think it's just small houses already consume less energy.
Yeah, so the change would be small and compact houses are recognised as consuming less energy and additional cost.
Perfect.
Lucas and Paul, are you happy? You are happy with those? Shane?
Yeah, happy
Okay,
with
change.
those changes, yeah, thank you.
Do you have any?
Is it worth somewhere to try to recognise the difficulty for applying new standards to old stock? Is it worth? And
So does this, I don't remember whether this applies only to new builds or does it apply to?
Through you, Mayor, I think the way that it applies is that if you're going to be doing those sort of upgrading works, so adding on some solar panels and things, then you're going to have to bring
certain point,
that up
bring
to a certain standard.
or if you want to extend, build a room out the back, it potentially triggers, my understanding, a whole heap of other changes you might have to do, which just makes it cost prohibitive. So you guys know more about this than me.
Yeah, if you, as soon as you start touching any element of an existing building and altering it, then you need, this part of the building needs to comply with the up-to-date NCC. So you got an old window and that's kind of too small, you want to put a bigger window in you're making the opening bigger, you're removing parts of the cladding and internal lining and whatnot. Every link bit that you touch has to be then brought up to standard. So you're putting insulation in, you're putting the wall wrap onto the outside. You very likely have removed parts of the cladding. So these days you have to batten it out, put some vapor permeable membrane underneath, so it changes, the composition of the wall. And all of this stuff has to comply with current regulation.
But not the rest of the house, only the area.
That's the thing as well. You start doing that on one wall, so you've got one wall that's meeting the standard, the rest of the house isn't, and it's like this kind of patchwork doesn't really make much sense. You see that like energy assessors probably get their heads steaming because they need to provide a report that basically just addressing this one new component of the build, but has to kind of pretend that the rest of the house isn't existing because it doesn't get into the calculations. But in reality, it does because the existing house is still attached to the extension. So.
Well, I don't know if it's possible, Matt, but it does seem to make it very difficult for locals to just upgrade their house in a cost-effective and paced way.
Yep. And I'd rather live in a tin shed than on a park bench. But I agree that obviously energy is very important and we should strive for that. But sometimes
Sometimes there's no choice.
young couples and first home buyers just can't get there. So he's got to get the cost of building down and cut red tape, but not cut insulation.
As Councillor Rose
Yes.
said at the beginning, there's two sides to it.
We have a suggestion.
Through you, Mayor, and just something again for councillors to consider, under the Tasmania specific challenges, we could have something along the lines of an older housing stock that is common in Tasmania makes upgrading those portions of the houses to the new standard to improve energy efficiency, cost prohibitive, resulting in poor outcomes.
Good.
That's great, thank you.
Yes.
Well, Mr. Grimsey is adding dot point. Just looking through the last section on skills and capacity constraints, the last dot point there is compliant products have longer lead times. I would like to add, or maybe bring into the discussion, that available products are not necessarily considered compliant, or require a performance solution that adds a financial burden to the applicant or to the developer. Meaning, I want to build a house out of mud bricks. I will need, because this is a building method that's not standardized and not in the NCC, I need a performance report, so that will add, money or take money out of my budget. I'm looking at strawware walls and a particular render that needs to go on that. Again, it needs a performance solution because it's not standardized. It's not part of the NCC. So maybe the NCC would have to get a little bit broader to accommodate for building materials that are readily available, and include those building methods that are currently not included but easier achievable in our context into the standard.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does, yeah.
Mayor, after in skills and capacity constraints, and again to work on another dot point, which would be along the lines of alternative available products such as mud brick or straw, requires a performance solution that adds an extra cost burden to the developer.
Something along those lines, and they are not the only ones, and they're probably that's perfect. Thank you.
Okay.
He's hoping that's it, isn't he? Just waiting for the next ones to roll on.
All right. We all happy with that then? Okay. So that just means that they have to accept that they're happy with the changes and we've made them. So you are. So now I'll put that motion forward. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors. The motion is carried. Thanks for that conversation. That's good. 17.1, report number 17.009/25, Kingfisher Beach Road landslip. I refer the councillors to the recommendation of this report. To have a councillor to move the motion, please. Councillor Armstrong and a seconder. Councillor O'Neill. You wish to speak to this one?
Oh, not really, Mayor. Thank you.
Very good report there.
Yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory.
Any other comments? Yes?
There's no point leaving the current infrastructure there. It's been working for how many years? And leave it as it is.
Oh, you mean the lands?
Yeah, they're temporary, but how many years they've been there?
They're temporary lights. Putting in some more permanent lights will allow us to just make it. One of the challenges is people having to wait for the lights.
Oh, yep.
Is sort of an undue time, so we can tune things a little bit better. Yep. And ultimately, having hired lights or our own lights sitting there for a while isn't a great use of that resource and asset.
So what we're actually going for is the not lights. It's going for a single.
Ideally,
yep.
We're trying to first come up with just improve the sight lines.
Yeah.
So, which we've obviously we've looked at this before. We've had DSG down there, and it's been an extended amount of time. But as you can see, we've been considering all options because we knew it's not going to be desirable for the community to go from a two-way road to one-way and have to wait. But the reality is that the cost involved with maintaining two-way or a bypass, you just can't justify it for the scale of population down there.
Yeah, no, go. You're right, Dave.
I've walked it a couple of times actually and looked at it. Is there an issue with like stormwater running over the edge and making it more unstable? Should we sort of be investing more in guttering down the side so it gutters it down the hill and not over the bank on the southern side?
Through your mayor, yes, stormwater. We believe stormwater in the past did contribute to the exacerbate the erosion.
Yep.
And if you notice, actually, there's a sandbags being placed along the edge to divert stormwater. So we will keep that arrangement in place.
Okay. Yep.
Any other? Yes, councillor Gibson?
And as we're, there were two questions. One is, how does the traffic amount here compare with Golden Valley Road? That was just a minor thing because I just wanted, trying to gauge how much use it gets. And the exploration we're doing about using vegetation to consolidate the Cygnet Coast Road edges. Has that been explored as a way of, getting the water out and stopping it slip further, that area?
So it's a complex environment there. It's the water, the geological conditions, and everything is contributing. So we don't know which factor actually contributes more. But one thing we do know is it's without extensive excavations or diversion works. That because if you look at the line item, which one? There's a 22. Showing actually there's a geology map there. It's the whole area actually sits on a less stable material.
Yeah, moving it doesn't even fix it.
No, it's a pretty big area.
It's quite well vegetated at the moment, anyway, through there. So, yeah, and that's the thing that that it's a whole region of geological instability, and the whole lot's moving. So, whether it's got trees and vegetation in it, it's still And so, we'll keep the monitoring up, etc. It's not the kind of thing that's going to just tumble down the hill and have an emergency. So it's going to keep that monitoring in there.
I think the approach we're taking is the right one, and it doesn't preclude doing something in the future.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah.
My feeling.
It's a very good place to build a road in hindsight, wasn't
Well,
it?
we also know, and it's in the report, I forget which line it is, but it's also noted that, we have this section over the headlands. I spend a lot of time at Southport, I know it well, but it adjoins two very low-lying pieces of coastal road that in the life expectancy of this, we didn't want to build it effectively, even if we had $4 million to build a bypass. The risk was building a stranded asset where, when the roads on either side are at very real risk of climate change, and there's the inevitability that there's going to need to be a wider scenario consistent with what we've talked about elsewhere around road retreats and rerouting, etc. So, the life expectancy of what we're proposing here is just it's financially sound, and while it's not the ideal solution for everybody, it's the financially responsible one, and it aligns with that life expectancy of the adjoining road network.
And we have, if we could get that site distance, we have a lot of one-way bridges, like in the municipality. And if it can't be that, and it is the lights, there will be better lights they'll turn red and green on people coming up to them, and if there's they're more responsive to what's happening, not to the light on the top of your car.
So my understanding is it's sort of a cut and fill sort of road, so it's been cut in, so that the bit that hasn't slipped is actually on the...
It's already slipped once before, it's been done before. This is not its first rodeo, this road.
And the second half of it's a bit that sort of slipped where they've cut and filled. So is a bit that's left relatively stable anyway?
Yeah, so
we've checked that. That's not likely to...
The reason this has taken so long to get to this point is the careful geological monitoring. And when you're talking about millimetres of movement and getting an appreciation of the risk of its likelihood of significant slipping. Correct. So this is all predicated on the risk is acceptable on that inner lane, which has not moved substantially. Yeah. Happy with that? Yeah.
Comment please on management of pedestrian or bicycle traffic. The report's mainly about vehicle traffic and it's quite in-depth, but pedestrians and cyclists.
Yeah. So there's actually, and has been for 2 years at least now, lane dividers in place, so more permanent sort of witches' hats effectively, which the cyclists, pedestrians, etc., have been using and can continue to use. So there's separation, effectively walking in that second lane that's not acceptable for vehicles, but that'll still be available for people to walk on. And certainly as someone that walks walks it frequently myself, it's a lot nicer pedestrian and cycling environment than getting down that hill when it was 2 lanes, especially when you've got little kids on bikes and stuff like that.
And then the proposal is for consultation or communication with that local community as an informed approach. I understand there's significant community interest in this issue, and I guess I wonder whether that one directional communication is enough to manage or potentially respond to community sentiment or thought or ideas about the issue.
Well, the critical thing is to make sure that the engagement that we do is genuine. So we've explored all options. I think there were 6 that we started with. We have explored all options and come to a conclusion of what's viable. So I wouldn't want to be going and consulting with the community and saying, we're interested in your opinions and ideas and what you would prefer, if we know, based on 3+ years of engineering assessment and this report, that these are the options that we face. So the inform would be, in this case, and why we've gone to the lengths of even including the different options here, is so that we can, in that inform, provide detailed context, that we did not just go the cheap and dirty option, discount all these other things, just this is what we're always going to do. We would want to be genuinely walking the community through why we ended here, but it would not be genuine to go and suggest that there's other options, other alternatives available at this point in time.
And we've spent a couple $100,000 on engineering assessments, and I think we've been talking about this since the first year we got elected, I think.
Yep.
So, yeah.
And that's what it takes to get your due diligence on something like this. It's a significant piece of infrastructure, and we don't want to get this type of thing wrong. It's no small thing.
When would it be implemented? When would it be likely to happen? There's some lead time required, because I guess we're coming into peak season and queues of traffic at the traffic lights. And I can imagine that people adapting to a different traffic management system, there's going to be a few, hang on, who's got right of way, who needs to reverse out of the way, issues with that. So, but I'm looking at some of the lead time things that maybe that's after peak season, when peak traffic flow isn't so critical.
Short answer, yes, but I'll throw to the director.
Yes, Mayor, I think that's a good point, because we did suggest 8 to 12 weeks to have it implemented, but also acknowledging the hot summer is coming, that we're going to see a significant increase in traffic. Maybe we just defer it after the summer and then have a quiet period as a trial and get people used to it. We will take that on board.
Noting that period and visitation by many people is perhaps a good opportunity to create the awareness. There's change coming. Yeah. This is what it's going to look like.
In previous summer seasons is when we've also provided informed context of where we're up to in the process, which has been, we're still looking at it. Sorry, there's still traffic lights there. So there'll be a more fulsome update this time. And the nice new public toilets down there provide a good wall and a focal point. And the good people rose at the Rocket, using some of those natural community hub points to put this kind of information down there, is the right way to get it out to locals as well as people that visit only occasionally.
And
barbecue to cook the fish.
well, the thing is too, you've got the pub, and I mean, most of the fishermen go in there, so. Yeah. Okay, Councillor Armstrong, have you got any? No, close.
Not really. I mean, it's just one of those things that's there. You've just got to make the best of a bad situation.
Yeah.
People already know that there's a problem. I think they'll probably embrace any improvement on that problem realistically. They can't get a new road, but we can give them the best thing that, people adjust. It's just a matter of adjusting. And it's safe, that we know that it's safe. That's the most important thing. We don't want somebody driving and have the rest of the road collapse. So no, not really. Thank you, Mayor. That was it.
And if anyone finds a wheel in Southport, I'm sure that we'd like it back. So, okay, if that's all, we'll move that motion. Everyone that's in favour, please raise your hand. That's all, councillors. The motion is carried.
You're a spare grinder.
Yeah,
I think the community voted about the traffic lights.
I think so, yes. Report number 17.010/25, cost benefit analysis of unsealed roads in Tasmania, I was going to say. I refer councillors to the recommendation. Do I have a councillor to move the motion? Yes, Councillor Rozak and Councillor Armstrong. Lucas, you want to speak about this one?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Just briefly, I remember it was last year at the AGM, wasn't it? Where this no, it was throughout the year where this petition was tabled, and I appreciate that action has been taken and work has been done to see where we can see maybe a few sections of the road for cost savings in the future. Running the first 1.5 roughly kilometers of Mountain River Road as a pilot project seems a good idea, and we can take those learnings and then see how far we take the scope of this project. So yeah, I think it makes sense to slowly make our way through it, and therefore I commend this motion.
Yeah, I mean, having the data to back up when you're trying to convince someone that, that road's got to be done before that road, it is a lot easier when you've got the great data that's been done. So thank you to Frank and that for that. So, yes. Paul?
I'd like to speak against the motion on the basis that our known oil reserves are going to maybe last 50 years, and the cost of extraction is just going to be radically increasing, and we need to be planning strategically 30 to 50 years ahead, and I think sealing and new roads is just not the right way to go. We currently value our oil reserves at the cost of extraction, but as oil becomes scarce, we're going to need it for essential services, food production, and to build and maintain renewable energy infrastructure. So there's going to be almost nothing left for this nice to have luxuries of private cars, and they will rapidly transition to shared transport and decrease the load on our roads. And I've seen, on the Singing Coast Road, what a well-built gravel road can do, and with less cars on it, it'll last a very long time. So I guess in terms of strategic planning, I think there's going to be a fraction of the number of cars on the roads in the near future, and that's before that meets the life expectancy of the road. And we're a responsible organisation. We've declared a climate emergency. The carbon impact of sealing these roads is massive, and so that needs to be factored into the decision. And I really don't think we can justify it. And then there's the fantasy of moving to electric cars, but it is a fantasy. The oil reserves that we've used up in over 100 years took 10 million years of solar energy to sequester. So it's just such an enormous amount of energy in oil that we don't really sort of take stock of, and we only value the oil at the cost it is to suck it out of the ground. But it's really, it's incredibly valuable stuff, and we shouldn't be pouring it into our petrol tanks and using 2-ton vehicles to move a 60-kilogram person from A to B. It's just complete nonsense.
So what are you?
So I think we shouldn't be considering sealing more roads.
So are you moving a motion, or you're just telling me you're going to vote against it? What do you want to do?
So I know I will happily foreshadow a alternative motion that Huon Valley Council should not consider further sealing of roads, and should stick to our very good formula of building the best quality gravel roads that we can.
Okay, do you have a second?
Second.
No, you don't need a second? Okay, all right.
See what everybody says first.
Oh, I get you, yeah. Gotcha. Comments? Yes?
Look, yeah, I agree. Well, I can see both sides. But the motion here isn't to seal a heap of road, it's more of a test case.
But it's moving in that
Yeah,
direction.
yeah,
I mean,
but
the test may prove that
Yeah.
it's very expensive.
So just, it wasn't clear to me, with the sealing of the road, are I going for the option one, the cheaper alternative, or is it going to be a full restructure of that one?
So this one only requires stabilisation.
Yep, so it's suitable for stabilisation, I said that, and that's what we're going to do. Okay, that's, yep. Well, I can turn around, Councillor Gibson, and say, well, we're going to do this and we're going to add up the values that you just mentioned on this 1 kilometre and use that to make future decisions, I suppose.
Fine.
And you can probably put a weight on those environmental concerns that you raised, which are valid.
Have any other comments? Yes, I'll go Councillor Armstrong, then Councillor Jessup.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm just a little bit I'm always confused, but when you look at our little chart here of, Mountain River Road, Dip Road, blah, 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 there's not a lot of traffic volume difference between North Huon and Mountain River, but the heavy vehicle percentage is quite different. So Mountain River Road only has 10%, so obviously it would stand to reason if it was sealed, it would last longer, I suppose. But Lonavale Road is probably one of the worst roads. So why would we not be, well, I know why, but would it not make sense to look at a road that's getting more chopped up because it's got heavier vehicle on it than sealing a road that has light traffic?
Will stay there longer?
And that's at the heart of the economic analysis, is that for the distance and the type of treatment, and with Lonavale Road and Mountain River and Narrows, all the ones with the high percentage of heavy vehicles, that Councillor O'Neill said before, can we do the option A or option B? Where the heavy vehicles are there, our topology says you can't just stabilise, you've actually got to reconstruct. So the cost per metre goes up stratospherically, and it just economically we just can't justify it. And I mean, as we've said in previous motions and responses, Lonavale Road, it is a very long rural road with heavy industry on it, and there are people, living out in that area, and that's a discretionary use in those areas, and that is part of living in rural life is the unfortunate consequence. And to Councillor Gibson's point, maybe the type of thing that is going to happen more often in the future, as there's just, it's not like we're growing more gravel either. So the cost of maintaining gravel roads and with constraints on quarries in the state and nationally, I think someone mentioned sand earlier tonight, maybe one of the members of the public. All construction materials are getting consumed. There is no perfect solution, and humans have got to get better at being either smarter or doing more with less.
Yeah, and that's the thing, isn't it? Like, you sort of know when you buy a home in the bush on a dirt road that you're buying on a dirt road. And that's the appeal for a lot of people too, living on a dirt road and whatnot. But yeah, it was just an observation, really. Like, I get why it would be done the way that it's done. And I agree, I don't think there's any acceptable real solution to the problems.
Sometimes it's extra volume. It's more people on the roads. They didn't have the dust getting into their water tanks as much as what they possibly do now with the increased traffic. But
I mean, to be honest, I think the roads are a heap better than they have been over the last 2 years. Like, I'm on all of them, and nothing's fell out of my car for the last 6 months, which is pretty amazing. No, well, the lights fell out the first 12 months I was travelling around, and something else flew off one day. I haven't had anything come down and hit me. It's been lovely. But I mean, the potholes, of course, do wash out, but overall, it's a much better driving experience.
Well, I mean, as you've seen in successive annual reports, we have been on the evidence of declining complaints and requests on roads. That's a really positive sign. But this council has also upped the investment in those roads, and Frank's team have changed their practices, the approach. So, they are appreciably better and demonstrated by the evidence.
I think the gravel's better
It's,
too, like
it's,
it's got
it's
better.
there's been a lot of little changes that all add up. Yeah.
I mean, of course, the people on Mount River that are getting they're going to think it's wonderful, aren't they? So we'll please some, we'll not please others. Yes?
Thank you, Mayor. I note that the lower consumption option one, two things. It reuses locally sourced materials. I know Jerry would be very happy about that from the earlier meeting that we had. But that's a 20-year life expectancy on that. And I think one of the questions in the pilot is to look at, grading it twice a year and resurfacing it and stuff over 20 years versus sealing it once over 20 years and the maintenance. That would be interesting. But so I'm just wondering if on part B, where it says section as a pilot project, can we maybe refer the criteria, that's not the right word, but refer the concept of the pilot to a workshop where maybe we can have a discussion around the pilot as a group to say, well, what do we want to measure? Is it just cost effectiveness, or is it environmental impact? Is it human factors as well? And safety as well. I think a gravel, there's two ways. Will people go faster on a gravel road and kill themselves, or will people be less stable on a gravel road and kill themselves? So there's a whole heap of criteria that we could measure, and I'd be interested, it's too hard to make a motion now, but I'd be interested if we could maybe flick off to a workshop, just a discussion around, well, what is the pilot going to measure? So we're not just looking at the purely engineering thing, but we're looking at the overall environmental and human costs of that.
Let's explore it a bit more.
Yeah, true to the fact.
Okay, all right, Amy?
I'm reasonably comfortable with the proposal, and I note the reports mention that a sealed road generates much less sediment runoff, and we're proposing this on Mountain River Road, which is immediately close to Mountain River waterway. So I'm imagining that we haven't got specific about measuring or quantifying that benefit, but I can relate to seeing a benefit in water quality in Mountain River via sealing of the road and reducing the turbidity input to that waterway. So,
Which is quite a degraded waterway.
yes,
By the time we get into
and
town.
quite a high priority from a conservation perspective to improve water quality. So I'm much as the input of resources to doing that creates a whole lot of carbon dioxide and so forth. It also creates what I'd hope we might regard as a tangible benefit from environmental perspectives. I think it's also, I'm curious whether there's been any consideration. So this is the bit that goes past the Dip Road intersection. So that's quite a fairly high traffic intersection, I would think, and whether that aspect and safety has been considered in the proposal or not, or whether that's just a byproduct of maybe it might be safer if braking on the approach or exit from the intersection was a bit safer on bitumen as opposed to loose gravel.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, I get you.
Flooding road.
Yeah.
And was there one other thing? No, I think that'll do me. Those are just a couple of other factors, but I think generally I'm in favour of dipping a toe into the water with this one.
Can I
Okay.
just make a comment
Yes.
in response to Councillor Robinson's comment about sediments into the waterway? Because as you're aware, we do resheeting exercise. Effectively, we top up the road with the virgin gravels every year, sometimes twice or actually sometimes like once every 3 years for some high usage road. And I wouldn't be surprised a large percentage of those gravels end up in the waterways after the rain event. That's the reason we have to keep coming back top up with the gravel.
Yeah,
If-
that's
if we
correct.
look- You're absolutely spot on. If we look at how the ecosystem of this stuff happens, we dig stuff out of the hills and we put it on our roads, but essentially, because it wears off our roads
Yeah.
by water
Yeah.
or dust,
Yeah.
it ends up, so we're digging the tops off those hills and putting them in our rivers.
Yeah.
That's what roads do. That's what they are. It's pretty awful, but I'm going to also make the point because we had a road closure item a few months ago, and that was making the point of how legislatively tight the rationale has to be to close a public road. And that's because they are so essential, they're so fundamental for people's right to access and use their property. They are an absolute backbone of our
And
system.
the more
so-
you gravel and the more it gets used, the more gets up on the sides and the more that it holds the water. And there's so many things to just sticking gravel on a road all the time. But, yeah.
So big issues, but yeah.
Okay, all right. So what I'll do is, Yep. Yep. Yep.
As I said, we declared a climate emergency, and if we're talking safety, I think the biggest existential threat to us and future generations is climate change. And yet in the report, I don't see any reference to our climate emergency and what the climate implications of sealing roads. And I thought that was part of the agreement in the climate emergency.
Yeah, you're correct. Yep.
So I think we should defer this to a workshop, as Councillor Jessop's talking about, and just go through it in more detail.
I suppose my proposal was the definition of the pilot. I'm sort of happy to go ahead with it, but let's make sure we do a pilot that covers all
Yes.
the aspects, not just an engineering box. I know you're trying to get it to, but yeah, I think a pilot.
If we were serious about a climate emergency, I mean, this is where the rubber hits the road, so to speak. It is. These are the decisions you have to make if you're actually going to steer us on a different course.
Okay, do we have any other comments? Okay, well, I'm going to put it to the vote. All those in favour of the recommendation that is before us, please raise your hand.
Can I just go to the question, sorry, before we vote? On the 11th hour. Are we considering the workshop in this? Have we added that?
So are you proposing that I add an amendment to
Well, if you're serious,
point
like
C?
if we are serious about talking about it, then you would need to.
So
I would just like to quickly change my foreshadowing to that we defer this to after a workshop to discuss all the real implications.
That's a good idea.
That's what I think we should do.
Procedural motion there.
Now, yeah, that's different again now. Yep. Okay,
We're just going to
so
have a quick chat about
did
it
we
later.
have a seconder to that poll?
Do you want to do that? Have a workshop?
No, I'm happy with it, but happy to put in there that we workshop the thing. Yeah, I know, yeah.
And I think we need to workshop the monitoring pilot project. But I think deferring it would simply be talking about maybe not doing it and should we do it. So I'm happy to have the vote of should we do it or should we do it. But then if we are going to do it, I would like the pilot to be a well-considered pilot. So I'm happy to move addition to point B, although we probably have to talk to the deferral motion first, but foreshadowing an amendment to point B, sections of pilot project, the terms of reference of which are to be discussed at a future workshop or a workshop as soon as practicable.
Right, okay.
Sorry, people, just wanted to be clear.
So, no, that's okay. So now Paul has his, Yep.
Procedural motion, and
Yep, and
that
we
the
know-
matter be deferred until after the holding of a workshop.
Yep.
And until we have information about the climate implications, which we don't have and we should have.
so do we have a seconder for that?
Sealing but deferring.
Just deferring.
Just
until
deferring
we're-
altogether.
And bringing it back as another.
I'd be happy because, well, I'm a bit like Councillor Jessup. I think it's a good test program, but the information is lacking, which is what we've said we should have in decisions that we are making. So on that grounding, yes, I will second it.
Okay,
Just a moment, Mayor, we have a seconder of the motion, seconding a procedural motion, so I just need
What's
to.
wrong with that?
Did you second the first motion?
No, I don't think so. No.
yes you did.
Did I? Oh, do I have to take my second back
No,
then?
I'm just clarifying, Mayor, it may be quite acceptable, it's just
Can you have a
making
foot in
sure.
both
Because it's
camps?
a different thing now.
Can you have a foot in both camps?
I can be anywhere I want to be.
So, Mayor, that's acceptable. It's only
Okay.
the amendments that have the restriction on the movement.
So now we go to the vote on that.
No debate.
All those in favour of deferring till after a workshop? Is that correct?
So the wording just added from Councillor Gibson, that the matter be deferred until after the holding of a workshop to have, to consider information regarding the climate implications.
All those in favour, please raise your hand.
Ta-da!
All those against, please raise your hand. So that was lost. So we go back to the original motion.
So the original motion
Yep.
moved Councillor Morozek, second Councillor Armstrong.
Yep.
Councillor Jessup has suggested at the end of paragraph B to add the words after pilot project, the terms of reference of which are to be discussed at a future workshop.
Yeah.
So if that's acceptable to
Is
the mover.
that acceptable to the mover? Yep, and yep. You seconded, so,
No, I'm not really happy with that.
all right. So,
I'd be happy to second the motion with that terms of reference at workshop addition.
That would be a motion to amend the motion.
I'm happy with the workshop, but we haven't included the climate change, which is what we said that we would do, and I'm not particularly 100% along the green wagon, but, if council have resolved to make a commitment, we're not making commitment, and we're now pushing things through without that investigation, then no, I'm not happy to second that.
so we go back and get it.
Mayor, may I just clarify, Councillor Jessup did make a comment in relation to the priorities that are considered as part of the pilot project. So climate change would be a consideration that you would be
We want to measure.
measuring as part
In
of
the
the
workshop.
workshop.
Oh, we're doing it first and then having a talk about it, aren't we? We're not.
And
We're deferring the whole project.
I think point of order, Mayor, point 26 and 27 do talk about environmental risks. Council will incorporate climate change and adaptation considerations. I agree that it's not done maybe in as much detail or as much in consideration through the whole concept of bitumising roads. I accept that it could have been done with a bit more rigour, but we can't say it hasn't been done. But it's not been well done.
It's only about road drainage, just
That's right.
making
So
sure that the
it's
road
true.
actually
True.
weathers the
So it's
changing.
not about the whole concept of sealing roads.
Not
But,
trying, not trying
yeah.
to mitigate.
Yeah, which if I can, our focus at this council is on adaptation in climate change. It doesn't mean we rule out mitigation, but our focus is very much adaptation. It's where we can be most purposeful. So yes, we have not attempted to quantify and evaluate the different mitigation impacts of return of bitumen versus gravel in the meantime. That I will foreshadow, that is a lot of work that needs to be, if we're going to do it accurately, I like the idea of workshopping the criteria, the protocols that we use through that test, but it would be relatively, look, we can probably get it reasonably accurate, but it's work and it will be relatively arbitrary around what that climate impact actually is to do that now without actually monitoring it.
I'm surprised it wouldn't be,
Okay,
surprised it hasn't been done somewhere else, but anyway. But
Yeah, but like all these things, all the costs, etc. Like the reason we're able to bring this now is because of the localized cost benefit that we're doing. There's the depths to which you're digging out. Like it just goes. It is never ending.
But you can't assess that until you do the pilot.
That's exactly where you're at.
yes.
Yeah.
So,
Sorry. Just can the director just say something?
Yep.
Sorry?
Can I make 2 points? One is what the recommendation is seeking a budget commitment in the next financial year to seal the 1.4 kilometers of the road. So realistically, we're talking about probably we won't be able to start until September, October next year. So there's a 9 months time before the works actually happen on the ground. There's probably the opportunity to have the workshop to understand what's the measurement and the criteria before the works actually happens.
We won't be here then, though. We'll run out of time before we get to it.
The other comment I want to make is that when we talk about climate resilience, is we know there's increasing rainfall intensity, there's increasing extreme rainfall events, which hits our gravel road very hard. A sealed road would mean more rainfall resilient, climate resilient in this instance. But understand this is just one part of the equation. Is what's the climate change impacts side of by turning a sealed road or unsealed road to a sealed road. That's the part we can do some desktop analysis, probably give some theoretical kind of calculation, and for actually what's happening on the ground, that's probably get verified or validated with the actual quantity of the work on the ground later on and report back to council.
thank you, Frank. So, yeah. Is it something new you're adding? Because we've already all had a go, like,
It's a comment that I think the direction Councillor Gibson's promoting this go is in a carbon accounting kind of direction, and that's it's a really interesting part of being climate aware, and it's something I'd flag through our budget submission process that we might be interested to develop more of as a council, and that was I was mistaken in the belief that we would have to start reporting on that in 26, 27, but we don't. However, the world evolves, and I guess at some stage, it's likely at some stage, the world around us will be so literate in climate that we will be reporting and talking that language and evaluating those pluses and minuses, but it's a frontier at the moment. So is that really useful for us to dive in the deep end and try and be pioneers in that area of applying that to our decision making, or are there so many other factors? And I think we're starting to see those costs anyway. As we see the price of gravel and fuels go up, it's part of the equations of who's paying for carbon emissions. So we are seeing that start to happen as our roading costs increase. Yeah.
thank you. Okay, now, I'm going to go back to Councillor Armstrong, and I just need confirmation whether you no longer want to second the recommendation with a workshop, with that workshop added.
I'm just going to withdraw everything because I'm totally confused about the whole situation now.
Okay, so, okay, right. So now I need to go back and get a seconder. And you're happy to second that? Okay, so now we have Councillor Robinson second that.
We'll
All right.
propose a motion, Mayor, to point B and see if the mover and seconder is happy to accept that addition that Mr. Grimsey has.
Is the mover and seconder happy to receive that? Which
Is
is,
that we refer the terms of reference of the project pilot to a future workshop.
all right, okay. Okay, so we're agreed on that. So we'll go back to that with the additional. All those in favour of that motion, please raise your hand. That's Councillor Jessup, Robertson, Razak, O'Neill and Doyle. And those against is Councillor Gibson and Councillor Armstrong abstained. Thank you. Well, then that has been passed. Thank you.
No sense to any of that conversation, to be honest.
19.06525, we're about to move into closed council. So I'd like to thank everyone that left after the AGM tonight and those watching from home. We must continue to record the meeting while everyone's moving out. Everyone else stays seated. The recommendation is the meeting now be closed to the public at
Page 37.
pursuant to Regulation 17 of the Local Government Meeting Procedure Regulations 2025 to discuss the following matters. Confirmation of minutes. Do I have a councillor to move a motion to go into closed? Councillor Gibson, a second to Councillor Jessup. All those in favour, please raise your hand. That's all councillors. I advise that according with Huon Valley Council's audio recording of council meeting policy, a recording of the open session of this meeting will cease at
8:38.